Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I want to talk about something that might not seem to have anything to do with the chakras, but I'm going to get there in the end, so just bear with me. I want to talk about the vagus nerve. And I'm sure some of you have heard of it. I've heard of it for years and never really knew the science behind it. And so in my research, I've realized that the vagus nerve is an amazing nerve. It comes from the Latin word meaning wandering, which I think is a really cool visual because the vagus nerve is the longest and most complex nerve in the human body. And it travels or it wanders from the brainstem all the way down to the colon. So it literally connects our brain to our body. And so the vagus nerve loves food or energy, really. And hang on one second. Hello, welcome. Come on in. So the vagus nerve loves food or energy, and it follows the whole digestive system while also receiving some of its nutrients from the brain or different portions of the brain, the heart, and the lungs in the form of prana. It receives its nutrients in the form of life force energy, which I think is really cool. The vagus nerve is associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, which controls our relaxation responses, right? And so if the body is in a constant state of fight or flight due to stress and anxiety, the vagus nerve can become underdeveloped or deactivated, right? And when the nervous system is in this fight, flight, survival overdrive, our breathing becomes rapid and shallow. Our heart rate increases. Our digestion becomes impaired, right? These are all things that you might have experienced if you've ever been through an extremely stressful or anxious time in your life, right? That breathing, rapid, shallow, really fluttering heart, and like not so great digestion. So when the vagus nerve is starved, yeah, I see some nods there. I certainly have. So it really spoke to me. And here's the really cool thing though, when the vagus nerve is starved of the essential nutrients that we need to survive, a whole host of chronic illnesses can result, such as chronic fatigue, chronic stress and anxiety, headaches. Headaches can be a sign that this nerve is underdeveloped or deactivated. Breathing disorders such as asthma, heartburn, IBS, chronic diarrhea, constipation, all of these things, some of them are everyday things that we might experience normally, right? And some are a little bit more severe, but they can all indicate that the vagus nerve is deactive or underdeveloped. And as I was saying, here's the really amazing fact. Anyone can reactivate their vagus nerve with simple breathing techniques, meditation, and yoga. So we are doing the thing. We're doing the thing to feed that vagus nerve with the essential nutrients it needs. But here's another amazing fact about the vagus nerve. It's connected to the 7 chakras. It's connected to the 7 chakras. These ganglions of nerves branch out to all 7 energy centers in the body. And as we know, the chakras are in control of the different strengths and weaknesses which exist within our body, mind, and soul. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, but just to remind you that meditation and breathing into our energy centers awakens the Kundalini Shakti, that snake-like energy, and that starts to energize the whole body and heals our whole body, including the nervous system, right? And the vagus nerve, that wandering. I almost like to think about the vagus nerve as the snake wandering down as the Kundalini Shakti wanders up, right? So one is physical and the other one is energetic, bringing these two different parts together. So instead of starving the vagus nerve, we feed it with our practices of deep conscious breathing, meditation, yoga, and pure wholesome foods, right? In order to feed that nerve, we have to give it the purest form of prana possible. So without the food. Maybe you can do that after. We are going to dive into some of the practices that specifically target the reactivation of this nerve. Okay, so if you are not already comfortably seated, then bring yourself into a comfortable seated position. And we're going to begin with some deep chakra breathing. This is going to be a slower breathing technique than we might have done, or you might have done in this class in the past. And it's quite meditative as well. So if you're not a visual person, don't worry if it's too challenging to follow along visually. As long as you're breathing deeply and consciously, you're going to create a shift and start to activate that nerve and get the prana moving. So if you are a visual person like I am, you might really enjoy this. So once you're seated comfortably, go ahead and let your eyes close. And we'll pause for a moment of silence, allowing the body and the prana to settle. Take a big breath in through your nose and out through the nose slowly. Bring your hands together at your heart center, Anjali Mudra. Notice how you feel right now. If anything is present for you physically, emotionally, energetically, if your mind is busy, or maybe if the mind is a little sluggish today. I'm just checking in so that you can compare at the end of class to see if anything has shifted. And go ahead, if you like, you can set an intention for our session. And let's open with the sound of Om. Inhale. Your hands can come down. You can keep your eyes closed, or if a soft downward gaze feels more appropriate for you today, then go ahead and do that. I want you to first exhale all of the breath out and bring your attention to the root chakra, your tailbone perineum. And as you inhale through your nose, take a big, slow breath and imagine breathing in through the root chakra and out through the root chakra. Now imagine breathing in through the root chakra and out through the sacral chakra, the second chakra in the low belly. Breathe in through the sacral chakra and breathe out through the sacral chakra. Now breathe in through sacral chakra. Breathe out through solar plexus. Breathe in solar plexus, Manipura chakra. And breathe out through Manipura. This time breathe in through third chakra. Breathe out through the heart. Breathe in through the heart, Anahata. Breathe out through the heart. Breathe in through the heart chakra. Breathe out through the throat chakra. In through the throat. Out through the throat, Vishuddha. Breathe in through the throat. Breathe out through third eye. Breathe in through third eye chakra, Ajna. Breathe out through Ajna. This time, breathe in through Ajna. Breathe out through the crown. Slowing down the breath. Breathe in through the crown, Sahasrara. Breathe out through the crown. Slowing down the breath even more as it comes naturally. This time, breathe in through the crown. Breathe out through third eye. Breathe in third eye. Breathe out through the throat. Slowing down the exhale. Slow, steady breath in through the throat, filling up your lungs. Breathe out through the heart. Breathe in through the heart. Breathe out, solar plexus. Breathe in, solar plexus. Breathe out, sacral chakra. Breathe in, sacral. Breathe out through the root. Now your next big breath in, breathe in from root all the way up to the crown. And then from the crown back down to the root. And do that a few more times as you inhale, breathing up. Imagine breathing in the Kundalini Shakti energy, moving it upward to the crown. And as you slowly breathe out, imagine nourishing your vagus nerve as it wanders all the way down. 2 more, just like that. And after you exhale your last slow breath out, let your breathing return to its natural rhythm. And take a moment to notice how you feel. Notice if anything has shifted already, just from a few minutes of deep, mindful breathing. And don't worry if you don't feel any different. Sometimes you just need longer practice. So whenever you're ready, you can let your eyes blink open and we're going to add more. Okay, these next exercises are specifically geared to target the vagus nerve. So you can stay seated for now. Sit up tall. And I'd like you to put your left hand on your head. I'm going to mirror you, so I'm on the opposite side. Left hand on your head. Yes. And then dip your left ear to your left shoulder. And turn your eyes diagonally up to the right. And we're going to hold it here for about 30 seconds. If it's uncomfortable or feels like tension, just do a little less. Less is more with these exercises. You might experience a yawn or the urge to swallow. Go ahead and let any of that happen if it comes up naturally, or even a sigh. Keep looking up to the right. And now slowly let your left hand come down. Your head can float back up onto your shoulders. And if you like, you can close your eyes for a moment or soften your gaze. If you need to take a break, go ahead. Okay. Now let's do the other side. So take your right hand on the crown of your head and just dip your right ear to your right shoulder. So again, there's no tugging or pulling or pushing. It's just a gentle, soft hand on your crown. And then look up with your eyeballs to the left, diagonally up to the left. Your breath can stay in its natural rhythm. And remember, if there's any discomfort, do less. And of course, if there's any pain, come out of it. Notice if you're experiencing any little subtle shifts. That might be a softening somewhere in your body, a sigh, a swallow. And if none of that's happening, don't worry. Sometimes 30 seconds isn't enough. Sometimes you need more. For now, let your right hand come down. Your head can slowly, gently float back up onto your shoulders. If you need to close your eyes for a moment or do anything to adjust before we move on, go ahead. So when I do these exercises, this one and the one that we're doing next, I typically just hold it until I feel like I've had enough, until I feel a little shift, or if my body's just telling me that was enough for today. Sometimes emotion comes up, but not always, right? It just depends on how deactivated the vagus nerve is, right? How much nourishing it needs. Okay, so the next one is very similar. Take your left hand on your crown, dip your left ear to your left shoulder, but this time take your right hand and wrap it around your left ribs. And then guide your left ribs over to the right. So you're creating a C curve, right? It's almost like a lateral stretch on the right side, a C curve on the left side. And again, turn your eyeballs up to the right, diagonally. And remember, less is more. So if it feels like it's too much, just do a little less. No need to push or strain. You might even experience like a popping in your ear or okay, now slowly release, come back up to center. Good. You might feel something of a shift and you might not. So everybody's very different. Let's do the other side. Right hand on the crown, dip your ear, and then wrap the left hand around your rib cage. And then gently create that C curve and turn your eyeballs up to the left upper corner. And even in the eyes, if there's a strain there, just do less. Maybe you're trying to look too far into the corner. And slowly begin to release. That's it. And that was about 30 seconds on each side, okay? So those are very specific. You can do those seated as you've felt. But now I just want to spend the last few minutes incorporating some very gentle, like warm up yoga so that you can see how our yoga practice almost mirrors those very specifically geared stretches that target the vagus nerve. And we just do them because we're yogis, right? These are ancient stretches and practices. So come to a tabletop position. And I know we're almost at the end of time, so this won't take very long. All right. Down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so from a tabletop position, just walk your hands a little bit further forward so they're not directly under your shoulders. They're maybe an inch further forward. And move into cat and cow. Inhale, lift the tailbone, lift the crown. So remember, the vagus nerve, as well as Kundalini Shakti and all of the chakras are along the spine. So this cow pose is targeting all of that. On the next exhale, coil in, tuck your tailbone, tuck your chin to chest. Then do that a couple of more times. Inhale to arch, synchronize your movement with the breath. Exhale, the full exhale to wrap. One more, inhale. Exhale. Now come back to center. You can point your toes back or tuck them under. It doesn't matter, whatever you feel comfortable with. Keep your gaze down towards the ground, but the back of your head is lifted, so it's in alignment with your spine. And bring your right ear to your right shoulder. And imagine your right hip trying to move towards your right shoulder as well. So we call this a lateral stretch. But as you can see, we have the same C curve in the right side body and the lengthening in the left neck. And if you like, you can look up to the left or keep your eyes soft. Take a big breath here into your left rib cage. And then exhale, come back to center. This time, dip your left ear to your left shoulder and bring your left hip towards your left shoulder as well. Just again, creating a lateral stretch in the right side and a C curve in the left side. And your eyes can stay soft, or if you want to add a little booster, you can look up to the right and take a big breath into your right rib cage. And then exhale, come back to center. All right. So you can hold that longer when you're doing it on your own, or you can oscillate between the two with your breath, right? But for now, for the sake of time, we're going to move into the next one. So come down onto your forearms. This is Sphinx pose, right? So your toes can point back and bring your elbows right underneath your shoulders. Palms are down, your forearms are parallel to one another, and your crown is lifting up towards the sky. And from here, Sphinx pose, just look over your right shoulder. Only to the first level of sensation. So not only are we targeting the vagus nerve here, but we're also starting to release some tension in that big, thick muscle in the side of the neck called the sternocleidomastoid. You don't need to remember that name, but you'll probably know it as the big, thick, very tense, or often tense muscle in the side of your neck. And if it feels uncomfortable or anything is like, feels like painful, come out of it a little bit, just do less. One more moment here, one more breath, and then come back to center. Lift the crown, and then look over your left shoulder. And again, you're only going to the first level of sensation. Less is more with this posture as well. If you feel any tension in your left shoulder, just do a little less or soften there. We'll hold it for one more moment, one more breath, and then release, come back to center. And just bring your hands together in like a pillow, one on top of the other. Rest your third eye. Take a big breath in and a slow breath out. Okay, come back up through tabletop. You can come to a seated position. So that's all we have time for today. I just wanted to show you a couple of different exercises, or a few different exercises that really target the vagus nerve to show you that you have access to this anytime. If you have a slight headache, if any of those symptoms come up for you that I listed earlier in the session, then try these exercises and see if they help. And when you're going through your next yoga practice, just notice all of the different postures that incorporate the same kind of movements into them. Things like, and again, we don't have time for it, but even something like triangle pose, right? Where we're looking up, right? That whole idea of the movement, you know, we're just putting a why behind the how, right? And a reasoning and some scientific evidence. So I hope that served you today, that you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to stay on. And if you have to go, please feel free. But I would love to, before I unmute you both, I would love to just om out with you, because we know the healing benefits of chanting. So bring your hands together or wherever they feel intuitive today. Let's take a big breath in for Om. Om. Bow your head towards your heart. Thank you so much for joining me for practice today. I bow to the divinity in each of you. Namaste.